Hello and welcome, my name is Cat Monarch and this is my channel, where today we'll be doing Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, more specifically, a guide to Ursarctics. I'll put timestamps in the video if I figured it out, or in the description if I haven't yet, so feel free to skip ahead to wherever you want. Thank you very much for popping in. This is a deck that consists of Water Beast and Beast Warrior monsters. The monsters in the main deck have two kinds. There are level 7 non-tuner beasts and there are level 8 tuner beast warriors. All of them share the effect that during the main phase, as a quick effect, you contribute another level 7 or higher monster from your hand to special summon this card from your hand. First up in our level 7 lineup we have Ursarctic Polar. This one, if special summoned, allows you to search for an Ursarctic monster. Next, we have Ursarctic Billis, which, if special summoned, you can special summon another Ursarctic from your hand. Ursarctic Tanus, if special summoned, can get you an Ursarctic monster back from your graveyard to your hand. In our level 8 lineup, we have Ursarctic Megapolar. If special summoned while you control another Ursarctic, targets and destroys one spell or trap card on the field. Next, Ursarctic Billis. If special summoned while you control another Ursarctic, targets and banishes a card from the graveyard. And lastly, we have Ursarctic Tanus. Targets a monster on the field and changes it to face down defense position. Now you'll notice that these are quite high levels for tuner and non-tuner monsters to try and synchro summon with. That is because the way Ursarctic synchro summon is by subtracting levels instead of adding them. This gives Ursarctics the only level 1 synchro in the game, and their other boss monsters are 2 level 7 Beast Warrior synchros. So starting off, we have Ursarctic Polari. This is a level 1 Beast synchro monster. If it's special summoned, you can get the Ursarctic field spell, Big Dipper, from the deck, activate it. You contribute an Ursarctic from your field to either add to hand an Ursarctic from the graveyard or special summon it. Ursarctic Grand Chariot, if summoned, can target and destroy 2 cards on the field. Also provides protection for all of your Ursarctics from effects that target by tributing a monster from your hand or field. Ursarctic Septentrion, while this card is face up on the field, any monsters that do not have a level which was special summoned from the extra deck cannot activate their effects. Also, if your opponent special summons a monster while it's on the field, you can search for an Ursarctic card from your deck. And that rounds up our main deck monsters. The level 7s are there as ways to help start and complete your combo, with the level 8s being various forms of disruption to use against your opponent. Your synchro monsters are the goal that your main deck monsters are pushing you towards, with both of the level 7s being decent payoffs. Ursarctic Polari is also a payoff thanks to the field spell, which we're going over next. This card is the field spell for the deck, which is both an extender and a payoff. If you would tribute a monster to activate an Ursarctic's effect, you can banish an Ursarctic monster from your graveyard instead. Each time a monster is special summoned, this card gains 1 counter. If a monster is special summoned, there are 7 counters on this card, and you control Ursarctic Synchro monster, remove all counters, steal a monster your opponent controls. Ursarctic Radiation is a continuous spell, which on activation places 7 counters on itself. Each time an Ursarctic monster is special summoned from your hand or extra deck, remove 1 counter, draw 1 card. Ursarctic Departure, a normal spell which can search 2 Ursarctic monsters from your deck. You can banish it from the graveyard as cost replacement for your Ursarctic monster effects. Ursarctic Slider is a quick play monster reborn for the archetype. Ursarctic Quint Charge is the trap card for the deck. You can pay 700 life points to either add an Ursarctic monster from your graveyard to your hand, tribute 2 Ursarctic monsters, special summon 1 of your Ursarctic synchros with a level equal to the difference in levels of those monsters. When your Ursarctic Synchro monster is destroyed by an opponent's attack, your opponent must shuffle cards into the deck, so the total number of cards in their hand, field and graveyard is 7. Ursarctics have 2 more cards which I haven't yet gone over, one of which you can see in the background, which is Ultimate Flagship Ursartron, a fusion monster which you need to summon via Ursarctic Drytron, a fusion spell. The reason why I haven't gone over these is because the fusion monster requires the Ursarctic field spell and the Drytron field spell as fusion materials. While you can use one of those materials from your deck thanks to the fusion spell, while Ursarctic Polari or Drytron Alpha Thuban is on the field, I can't see the point of running either of these cards in the deck when the best effect in either of them is the cost replacing effect that Ursarctic Drytron has in the graveyard. With a brief explanation of every Ursarctic card out of the way, let's move on to the combo segment. I'm just going to leave the text on the screen for this one because I can't quite talk fast enough to make it match to the video. Now let's go over the ratios for an Ursarctic core. You have 2 or 3 of Mechabilis, 3 of Mechpolar, 2 or 3 of Mechtunus, 3, 2 and 2 of the Megas, 3 Radiation, 3 Departure, 3 Slider, 1 or 2 of Dipper, 3 Polari, and 1 or 2 of each level 7 Synchro. Mechabilis and Mechtunus. You run one of these at 3 and the other at 2. The main differences between them are what cards they play around and how good they are at different game states. Mechabilis is countered by fewer hand traps because it doesn't use the graveyard, however Mechtunus is better at a later game state where you have fewer cards in your hand and more cards in the graveyard. Next we have the level 8 Ursarctics. I described it as 3, 2 and 2 because these ones are dependent on what you play against. I play Mechabilis at 3, 2 reasons. 1, he is literally the strongest of them, he has the biggest attack value, and most decks like to use the graveyard in some capacity. Even decks like Eldritch want to banish their own cards on their own terms. Big Dipper is a card I am currently playing one of, which on occasion has come back to bite me. So this should give you a good core and an idea of what you are trying to do. But when it comes down to it with ratios, you need to playtest. Nothing is going to help you understand what works best, like actually dueling and using the ratios that you choose. It helps you find out when you're playing cards which you play too many of, too few of, and work out what the best cards are, which you always want to see. Hopefully that has provided a good overview of the archetype for all of you. If you're not interested in the rest of the video, there will be a few builds on the screen for you now, They should be, at the very least, good starting points for learning how to build and play your own variant of the deck. Regardless of whether you do stick around, thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you all have a good time. I started playing Ursarctic because I wanted to help my brother build them. He was interested, but is very much of the belief that he isn't quite as good at deck building as I am. If I had no idea where to start, I couldn't imagine where he would. So I loaded up EDO Pro and started to try and construct a deck. I tried building a pure deck first, but found it slightly too inconsistent and far too simple. I say simple because it was draw radiation or lose. So I then did the next logical thing. I went into the EDO Pro filters and I looked at what all the Ursarctics had in common. Yes, they were all high level monsters, level 7 and 8s, but they all tribute a monster to special summon themselves from their hand. From my experience as a Monarch player, I know that if this card is tributed, is on several cards. So I looked at that and filtered it by level 7 plus monsters. This gave me 2 whole results: Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight and Arisen Gaia the Fierce Knight. And those 2 cards, much more specifically Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight, are how I arrived at my first monstrosity of a build. Ursa Toon Soldier, Toon Luster Bears, Baloo's Arctic Boogaloo, Bongo's Cartoon Circus, Bosco and Quay's Adventure, Lil Jon's Arctic Voyage. As of yet, I've not really decided a name for it, so let me know which of those you like most or come up with your own one in the comments. The theory behind this deck was using cards that gave me extra fodder after tributing them for Ursarctic effects, in the way of Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight. Charging Gaia can search any Blackluster Soldier, which means that it can search the Toon Blackluster Soldier. Why not add in Toon Table of Contents so I can search out that fodder more easily? Toon Bookmark, why not? Let's add more search cards in. Put in a Toon World so it can actually gain its effects. I'm playing a light monster because of Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight, any Blackluster Soldier monster. So let's play the original and let's throw in a dark monster. Gizmek Orochi is by far the best dark monster to use for those purposes. And that is my 15 cards, that's how I came up with this build. This deck is most certainly gimmicky, but I love it to bits. It was the first build I made, and when it goes off, boy does it go off. After playing this for a while, and actually managing to pull off some of the combos some of the time, I realised it did have potential. I decided to find 12 cards to replace the Black Luster Soldier and Toon cards. And the 12 cards I put in as replacements for the Black Luster Soldier and Toon cards are Danger Bigfoot, Danger Thunderbird, Danger Ogopogo because I was missing the 3rd Thunderbird, Lava Golem, and Trade-In. The theory behind this was that I was playing level 8s anyway. Trade-In is extra draw power, as are the dangers. This version of Ursarctics made me think of the deck as a definitely playable and potentially powerful deck. And this particular list has undergone a couple of revisions, but it is the basis of what I'm playing today. My current build is a hard go second, full of board breakers, draw power, and ways to make multiple synchro monsters as fast as possible. Alpha the Master of Beasts has proved better than Thunderbird most of the time, so that's the main deck change. The extra deck is the same. The side deck has the spare Megas, Thunderbird, Cyclone and Duster for back row heavy decks, and the 7 cards I signed in when going first. Eperia and Moulin Glacier swap for Alpha the Master of Beasts and Lava Golem, Chengying swaps for Navy Dragon Mech. The theory behind this is that your opponent cannot possibly have enough disruptions to prevent all of your actions from going through. This in part is due to the increased consistency thanks to Trade-In and Danger Bigfoot. Also, about a quarter of your deck is board breaking tools and cards that threaten the opponent's board in some way. If you should in some way fail to OTK your opponent or remove all their resources from their hand and field, you should have enough resources yourself, thanks to Ursarctic Big Dipper, Septentrion, and whatever cards you might have in your hand, to possibly counteract their plays during your turn, after having an already established board that they also have to fight through. If you happen to be wondering why I'm playing Sword Soul Chenging instead of Baron de Fleur, the reason is because Baron has not yet had the reprint and still remains quite expensive. If I were playing Baron de Fleur, I would not be playing Aperia, but we can get onto that later. As for whether I should be playing Aperia in the first place and not a level 3 hand trap, that is due to personal preference. It is a draw on normal summon or special summon. I'm not someone who really plays hand traps. Mooling Glacier, the Elemental Lord, is a level 8 water, which means it's both a trade-in target and valid fodder for all your Ursarctic monsters, and because it's one of the Elemental Lords, it has the summoning condition where you need exactly 5 monsters of a given attribute. Mooling Glacier is water, so you need 5 water monsters. You can manipulate the amount of water monsters in your graveyard, seeing as you can banish one of them using the cost replacing effect of the field spell, or shuffle them back during the end phase with Radiation. You can also fetch them out of the graveyard with Polari, or with Ursarctic Slider. And the benefit for all this is that you can discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand, or their entire hand if less than 2. Playing 2 Ultimaya Zolkin and 4 targets for it is entirely personal preference. I'd still recommend in a build like this that you run 1 Zolkin and 2 good targets. I'm just playing 6 slots dedicated to it because I feel like it. Also, if you for some reason end on double Zolkin, your opponent cannot attack either of them, and if you have 1 spell or trap card in hand and 2 Zolkin on the field, that fulfills both card conditions when you set the 1 card, meaning you can get 2 special summons from 1 set. The level 9 synchros are, I feel, the 3 best options for you. Virtual World QB Shenshen hard counters graveyard decks, and you can play around it fairly easily after you've established your board. Navy Dragon Mech can potentially negate your opponent's entire field depending on how many of the Mega Ursarctics you've got in your graveyard, and Stellar Wind Wolfrayet is a very easy board wipe. You can keep extending during your own turn to build it up to 4,000 so that as soon as your opponent does anything you have it ready. Alternatively, you can just summon it as the last summon of your turn and have disruptions in your hand while your opponent's trying to make their own plays, and that should build it up to 4,000 pretty quickly on your opponent's turn. But my build aside, I wanted to show that the archetype, while not particularly splashable as an engine, can be played alongside many different archetypes. Some of these obviously synergize better than others, but the deck is fairly flexible. Sure, you can't really use Xyz or Link strategies with it, and it kind of needs to be the majority of your deck, at least in my opinion, but you have a few strong hybrid builds, notably Adventure Ursarctics, Ice Jade Ursarctics, and rather surprisingly, the deck works quite well with the Winged Dragon of Ra support. Of course, archetypes can only get you so far in Yu-Gi-Oh!, so you will want to play some generic or staple cards to boost the power of your deck, especially if you want to play competitively. So, here are just a few worthwhile mentions that you can run. Starting off, we have Nibiru the Primal Being, the Winged Dragon of Ra Sphere Mode, Lava Golem, and all the Kaijus. They are all high enough level to be used as tribute fodder for your Ursarctics, and are all board breaking cards in some way. The Kaijus are most often live, Sphere Mode has technically got the most payoff, Nibiru is probably the best by far. Alpha the Master of Beasts, Dangers, Gizmek Orochi, and Dino Wrestler Pancratops are all various removal options which can put easy bodies on the field. Vanity's Ruler, Vanity's Fiend, Jinzo, Kairyushin Leviathan, Spell Canceller, Denko Sekka, and Barrier Statue of the Torrent are all playable floodgates. Some of these are very meta dependent, like Jinzo and Spell Canceller. Vanity's Ruler and Vanity's Fiend are strong boss monsters on their own most of the time, given Yu-Gi-Oh's heavy monster focus. Power Tool's Synchron is a level 3 tuner which can revive itself from the graveyard, giving you a level 10 Synchro on its normal summon and a level 8 Synchro on its summon from the graveyard from one tuner monster. All the Ghost Girls are pretty much viable. They're all level 3 tuners, which again gives you level 10 synchro access, and they all either disrupt your opponent in some way, or swing the game in your favour. Ghost Reaper and Ghost Sister are currently the least useful of the two. However, Ghost Reaper could possibly work in pure control builds, and Ghost Sister can just win you game 3. Righty and Lefty Driver are played as a pair as another way to make Polari. Crystal Girl gives you access to level 9 synchros and can search for an Ursarctic during the end phase of the turn, as well as being able to revive itself once from the graveyard before banishing itself. Fantastical Dragon Phantasme requires a very link-focused format to be really effective, but is a good consistency boost to hand trap in such formats, as well as the fact that it's a level 7, which helps you make Polari. Change of Heart, Harpy's Feather Duster, Monster Reborn, and Raigeki are all powerful spells from long ago which work just as well today, for the most part. Dark Ruler No More is a more modern board breaking spell, which is fairly effective most of the time, again given the heavy monster focus in the game. Triple Tactics Talent is its own small toolbox of effects, which is going to be pretty handy because hand traps are coming back into play, so your opponent's probably going to stop something you're doing, or if you're playing into an established board, it will probably be live. Evenly Matched is quite probably the best board breaking tool printed of all time. It's a trap that you can activate from your hand during the battle phase, which banishes cards face down, forcing your opponent to control only one card, or use their Omni Negate on it. Infinite Impermanence is great going first or second as monster negation, and as possible spell trap negation if you're going first and setting it. Goes and Match and Soul Drain are probably the only floodgate traps that you can actually play under. You can play under Skill Drain, but if you do lose a little bit of your consistency and power, as your on-field effects will not activate. Your one advantage playing under Skill Drain is that you summon relatively strong monsters. The synchros in the extra deck here are dependent on what you play, because you will probably not be able to play the right levels to make all of these in the same deck, but I think the ones shown are a few of the best for their respective levels. The only two relevant cards in the side deck are the Crimson Dragon and Ultimaya Zolkin. These two can be made legitimately. Everything else is a suggested toolbox card to summon off of their effects. Anyway, those are the cards I'd recommend to play if you want to help make your deck more competitive. But if we get down to it, I don't really recommend playing the Floodgates because that's not how I play. Nor do I really recommend playing the Ghost Girls or Nibiru, or maybe even Evenly Matched or Impermanence. I much more like Jank, and cards that maybe aren't the best choice, but not necessarily a bad choice. So, following this is a list of cards that I think are funny or worthy inclusions for a variety of reasons. Some of them are borderline playable, niche but legitimate options, to various funny beatsticks. Starting off, we have Arch Nemesis Ishatos. It isn't difficult to summon. Ursarctics naturally play two types, Beast and Beast Warrior, so you just need a third type of some kind to banish from your graveyard to summon this card. Ishatos Calling Dragon is not as good as Arch Nemesis Protoss Calling Dark attribute, but that's why this one is legal and Protoss is banned. Odd Eyes Advanced Dragon is an alternative normal summon, which can use any one Ursarctic as the entire tribute, and is removal on summon. Desperado Barrel Dragon and Charging Gaia the Fierce Knight both fetch extra tribute fodder after being used for tribute fodder. Vanguard of the Underground Emperor is tribute fodder, which then turns into a free 2600 body on the field. It can't be used for Zolkin because it returns to the bottom of the deck, which gives you some recursion and recycling, but I'm sure it has its uses. Medium of the Ice Barrier is a bad Shogun Shien, but the effect is still the same as Shogun Shien, which makes it worth mentioning. Heavenly Zephyr Miradora and Sneaky Sea are both hand traps which can be tribute fodder and or material for Polari, as well as potential disruption. They are definitely niche, but definitely worth experimenting with. Zephyr Miradora can potentially negate powerful extra deck monsters, and Sneaky Sea, if your opponent doesn't have an answer to it, is just potentially an entire board wipe. Prime Material Dragon is an anti-burn card with destruction protection for your board, at the cost of a discard, which is why it's in this list. Great Marju Garzette and the Calculator are amazing beatsticks. Great Marju Garzette will be, at the lowest, 1400 attack, but more often, as long as you're tributing a Mega, or if you really feel like it, one of your Synchros, sitting around the 4800 to 6000 attack point range. As long as you can get one Mega to stick on the field, the Calculator contests Blue Eyes. They are great values for normal summons, but have absolutely no protection, can be stopped by an attack negate, effect negate, destruction, and so on. Numen Erat Testudo is a floodgate which you can kind of play around, stops the special summon of any monster with less than 1800 attack, which allows all your Megas to go through, and prevents a lot of various combo starters with low stats from actually doing anything. Chunk Breaker is Dark Ruler No More at home, which is still Dark Ruler No More. Mech Phantom Beast Tetherwolf becomes a level 7 on summon by creating a level 3 token. This can give you Polari access, level 11 and level 12 Synchro access from one monster. Burner's Falcon gives level 8 and 12 Synchro access. Quillbolt Hedgehog is a double-use non-tuner which you can use to make level 10s. Just a few of the good low-level monster candidates for Ursarctic are Earth, so Hidden Gem of the Seafront works depending on your build, giving you an extra normal summon, and if you control an Earth and a Water, which is one of the other cards you play and any Ursarctic, you can special summon it from the graveyard as a level 2 non-tuner. Again, level 10 Synchro access. Junk Converter is arguably far superior to Quillbolt because it gives you back the tuner monster you used instead of the non-tuner. If you're playing Baron de Fleur and you want a normal summon which gives you level 10 Synchro access and advantage, Clear Effector is better than Aperia. It still draws you a card, but it also prevents your Omni Negate from being destroyed by card effects. This is why you don't use it to make Cheng Ying, because it prevents his cost replacing effect from going off. Evil Thorn does a little bit of burn, deck thins, and gives you either one level 10 Synchro monster, or 2 level 9s, as it is a level 1 non-tuner, but summons 2 copies of itself. Tuningware is either level 1 or 2 when used for a Synchro summon and draws a card. The Nemesis monsters are all easy to special summon from your hand, since during your combo, you normally banish an Ursarctic card to get to one of your level 7 Synchros. This means that, depending on the Nemesis monster you play, you are provided with level 12, 11, 10 and 9 Synchro access respectively. Salvage is recovery for any 2 Mick monsters. Sea Lord's Amulet is protection for all of your Ursarctics. Starlight Road is better than Sea Lord's Amulet because Dark Hole, Raigeki and Lightning Storm are all at 3, and it can possibly summon you a Stardust Dragon as a result, which just gives you an extra protection. Icebarn is a weak floodgate which works quite well with a barrier statue. It means your opponent either has to be on a water attribute deck, or probably very specifically Super Heavy Samurai to actually attack over it. Power Tool Braver Dragon is very easy to make and a half decent monster to try and OTK with. It can either negate effects or change the battle position of a monster by sending an equip spell to the graveyard. On summon, it equips 3 equip spells from your deck or graveyard. This effect of Power Tool Braver Dragon to equip 3 equip spells from your deck or graveyard to it gives you your own Build-A-Bear boss monster. And with that, we're brought to the actual end of the video. I hope someone has stuck around this long to see all the various niche cards you can find and listen to my ramblings, but even if you haven't and you've just skipped to this part because why not, thanks at least for checking the video out. Hope this has taught you something about Ursarctics and about how they can play, how they do play. Look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. I've been Cat Monarch. Bye bye for now.